The first time I made this purse, it was for a custom order, and it was made with vinyl and Decovil, and it was one of the hardest purses I've ever glued into a frame. However, I know that a lot of people really like this fabric combination, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to put it in the frame, but I will warn you that it can be frustrating because of the stiffness of the Decovil means that you'll stick one side in and the other side will pop out. So it takes some patience and it takes some experience, but I will try to show you how to do it with the least amount of frustration. First off, you need your frame, you need your purse. I use a butter knife to push it in the frame. You'll need your glue. I use Amazing Goop craft version. There's also E6000, Gutermann's textile glue. Those are all good options. And you may need a toothpick to smear the glue in the frame. Also, a piece of chalk or something else removable so that you can mark the center on the lining of your purse. So I've already marked that on both sides, and I made my mark long enough that it will extend beyond the frame once it's inside. So I will have to remove that mark later, but that'll help me know where the center of the purse is. The center on the frame is where these two balls intersect. So when it's open, it'll be right here on this side and here on this side. So I'm not going to put any glue in quite yet. When the purse goes in, I'll put it in the center first, fold down this side, and then I will push this corner in and then this side in. Then I will move in and do the same with this corner and this side. But first we need to put the glue in the frame. Ideally, the tip of your glue will fit into the channel, but I like this glue a lot for frames, and it has a wide tip, so I just use a toothpick. You need to make sure that you have coated both sides of the channel, and you don't want a lot of thick parts on the glue. You'll want to use the toothpick to push your thick parts down, but you do want it thoroughly coated. As the glue dries a little bit, it will contract, so it will take up less space in the frame. This part takes the longest, so sometimes I will watch a show or listen to an audiobook, or I'll stick my Kindle in front of me and try to read, but that doesn't work as well because I can only read a few words at a time, then I look at the frame again. If you get some on the edge of the frame, just leave it for now. Even if you get it on the outside of the frame, it's a little easier to pull off once it is dried a little bit. So just let it dry a little and then it'll peel right off. If you try to rub it off right away, it'll smear on it and then it'll be more of a struggle. I always make sure I've got the corners really well and this bottom part, because if you don't have enough glue at these parts, it'll slip out right there, and that can be frustrating. I forgot to mention, make sure you have enough air and airflow, ventilation. You can put a fan on yourself. This is pretty smelly stuff. Alright, I've finished one side. I like to do both sides at once when I'm gluing. If you are brand new to gluing, you might want to do just one side. However, then after you've glued that one side in, you'll have to coat the other side of the frame with glue without getting it on your purse, and that might be tricky. So I've always preferred doing both sides at once. Now this style of purse, because it has such a obtuse angle at the top of the frame, it likes to pop out when you're putting it in the frame. That's why I find it a little easier to work with foam. For some reason the foam doesn't have the same problems with popping out one side while you're pushing in the other. But then again, if you want to use vinyl, Decovil is thinner and works really well with it. The toothpick is good for smoothing out the places that the glue gets too thick. You want it on both sides of the frame, but you don't want big glops of it that'll squish out once you put the frame in. Okay, and I check all the way around to make sure I'm happy with the coverage, and I am. I'm going to put this here and let it dry for just a couple of minutes. Your glue may have instructions on the pattern on letting it dry for a few minutes, 5 to 10. Some of them say 5 to 10. Mine is faster drying, so I'm only going to give it about 2 minutes to dry. Okay, I've let my purse frame dry for a couple of minutes, and now what I'm going to do is look for places where the glue might have gone to the, look for the places where it oozed out a little too far, because right now it is a little tacky and it's easy to just pull it right off. Or right here I smeared it on it, so I give it a little bit of friction and it rubs right off. Okay, so I feel like I'm ready to glue. All right, when I glue, I start with the middle. I match it up with the center of the frame. And just kind of try to slide it in a little bit. Over here, I'm going to push the side of this purse down to make this corner more visible. Right now I'm just working with my fingers, but I'm ready to use my knife. At this point, sometimes your knife will poke in and get stuck in the glue, or not get stuck in the glue, but it'll come back with little remnants of glue. I always just wipe that right off with my fingers so it doesn't smear on the purse frame. And I push in. If you want to put a Kleenex or something or tissue next to you to wipe off any wet glue, you can. Okay. It's not pushed all the way in, but we have a nice start. So now I'm going to go over to this side and fold this edge down to make a corner over here. I only push in a little bit at a time because if you push too hard, your knife will go and then get glue all over it. So I push gently, little bits at a time. See, that pushed in a little too far. Now I need to wipe off a little wet glue. I'm pushing in this side. This side is starting to pull out. Okay, so it's mostly in on the inside. So now I'm going to move to the outside and push this in. Gotta be careful with your vinyl. You don't want to scrape your vinyl. Some vinyls can deal with this a little better, but this specific vinyl, I'm afraid I'll put a hole in it. So I'm very gentle pushing that in. Okay, so this still needs more pushing on the inside. I don't want my seam allowance showing. You can see I'm pushing down here, not right next to the frame, but I'm kind of using it to shove the purse up. Over here it's trying to come out again. If it goes in and then comes out, it usually tries to bring some glue with it. Then you have to be careful you're not smearing glue all over. Okay. Now I'm going to start working on the other side. And I will have to keep pushing these parts back in as I'm doing that. That's just the nature of this purse. So I find the center of this purse frame and I push this side up. This corner doesn't want to go in, but my center won't line up here until my corner is shoved in pretty far. So I got to keep working on this corner. When I first made this purse, I swore I would never ever make a purse like this again, but so many people seem to enjoy it. I popped it out of the frame. So I said, fine, I'll do it. And I have enjoyed the process of making this pattern, but I still do not like putting this combination of fabrics and interfacing together in the frame. I'll give my hands a rest. Back to this corner. This is where I wish I weren't using a serrated butter knife, but I do like this knife. Other than the serrated part, it's really good for getting purses and frames. Okay, let's work on this last corner. I hope I don't undo my good work. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this in the frame, but also see what I'm working on. Give my hands a rest again. Here it is, trying to poke out the other side again, so I just keep pushing this back in. Okay, so you will have a little deeper V if you did the drop-in lining, because when you sew something at a 3/8 inch seam allowance and then turn it inside out, it ends up, the thickness of the interfacing takes up some space. With this, that's why I wanted you to make sure that you turned in your top edges and rolled it so that the seam was on the inside, to try to mimic that effect of the other type. But you still might find that there's a little bit deeper V on here than this version. Pattern still works. Okay, and I don't know, I'm losing track of which side I was working on. I'm not sure if I poked this side on the outside yet. So just to make sure, I'll poke this side too. Looks like here I've got a little bit of glue that's poking out, so what I'm going to do is I just cut my nails recently because I had a violin performance and my nails were too long. so now it's really hard to get things. Okay, so I might get some tweezers to get that bit. It's not going to ooze, it's just a tiny little bit of dried glue. Okay, so the outside of this is looking pretty good. The inside, still have it popping out on this side, and I have a little bit of glue coming out right here. So I'm just going to keep working in these edges as best as I can. I think this side is all done. This side though, I've got to work on a little bit more. Get this piece in all the way so it stops popping out. Okay, I think this is in pretty much as good as it's going to get. If you have a hard time with it coming out on the sides, what you can always do is just kind of hold it in place for a few minutes until it kind of catches hold of the fabric, and then let it go. And make sure I don't have any little bits of glue that need to be pulled off. This is little just bits of dried glue. Okay. Alright, and I'm going to keep this open to dry. It usually takes a few hours to fully dry. I sometimes will just let it stay 24 hours just to make sure it's completely dry. But wait a couple hours before you close the purse, because sometimes when you close it, it starts to work its way out of the frame. This looks like it's in pretty well, but I've had it in the past where it starts to work its way out when you close it. So just let it be, let it dry, and you are done gluing your purse.